everybody. I'm Alicia, and
I'm Nikki.
we are your hosts of Nurse Strong podcast. And today we are going to discuss one of our favorite subjects, which is money. And we have our friend Rob.
Hey.
Rob is also a nurse, and Rob loves money. And he also,
I do love money.
Yes, we all love money. And we are going to talk about Dave Ramsey and just some of his philosophies or ways of making money. And so, Rob, you have experience of doing some of his, what he has, the baby steps and the snowballing debt. So
Right.
Tell us a little bit about your experience. Is it good? Is it bad? Would you recommend it?
Sure. So I'm still in the middle of it. The baby steps are part of his process. The course that Jill and I took was called Financial Peace University, and we got involved actually after I tried to go to an investor to invest money. And this investor, Goodwin Investment Advisories, shout out to Tim Goodwin and his team. He basically sat me down in one of the first sessions when I was talking about what I wanted to invest. He said, do you have any debt? And I said, funny you should ask, about six figures. So he said, well, I need you to, think about, getting that in order before we start investing. And so that was kind of my second exposure. I had been exposed previously, but yeah, the Financial Peace University has been a program that Jill and I really love just because it does give you exact steps. And, as nurses, we like protocols and we like, do this, and this, and kind of stick to the rules, so to speak. Obviously within reason, nurses do like to bend rules when appropriate, but I liked his program because it does give you steps. So the baby steps are basically 7 steps. And the 7th step is kind of not really a step at all. It's just kind of the reward that you get if you've done the first 6 well. So baby step 1 is saving $1,000. Baby step 2 is the debt snowball, which you kind of alluded to. And that's actually what Jill and I are in now. Baby step 2 can vary for people based on the amount of debt they have, the intensity of how well they pay off debt. And then steps 3 through 6 are after you get done with baby step 1 and 2. So yeah, I mean, we really loved it. Step 2 for us started in January of 2019. It was easy for us to save $1,000 because we actually already had more than 1,000 saved, which is something we can talk about if you guys want. But $1,000 is the recommended savings for baby step 1. It's a baby emergency fund, is what he calls it. Okay. So yeah, we're still snowballing our debt, and we're gung ho. Should be done March of 2021. So
and how much have you guys, if you don't mind sharing,
sure
been able to pay off using those?
So we started with about $140,000 of student loan debt and 2 cars, and we've paid off to date about $95,000.
That's awesome. Great.
Yeah. So, and that's all been dollars paid, right? So you can start with the amount of debt and then you can kind of liquidate stuff. What I mean by that is, say you've got a $30,000 car note that you turn around and get rid of for the sake of another car note. That's $10,000. $20,000 went away, but did you really pay off $20,000? Right. No, you just kind of you reduced your debt burden. So that $95,000 for us has been cash flowed. So we've still got about $55,000, which is about $15,000 on a car, 1 car, and then 2 big student loans from Jill's master's degree.
Why you gotta call out Jill like that?
I mean, it's just the way. So the way the snowball works is you line up your. Oh, okay, cool.
No, so go ahead.
Yeah, the way the snowball works is basically you order your debts from the smallest value or the smallest principal total loan to the largest. So the smallest, say you had a $1,500 credit card. The largest for us was a $20,000 loan, and that was one year, I think, of masters. So that's why her debt is kind of last. It really doesn't have anything to do with how we planned it. It's just in the value scheme, it's really where it falls. So a lot of people will have cars towards the end of their debt. And the reason that you do the small debts first is because mentally you need to pay off things and get rid of them to show that you're making progress.
Start forming a habit.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it is based on the debt amount. It's not based on the interest. So, you know, there's a lot you can go into about why mathematically you should do the interest first. It's like if you have a 15% interest rate, you should pay off that first before you pay off a 2% interest rate. But Dave does say, you know, pay off the smallest balance first, because you can chew that off quicker.
Right.
If you try to chew off a $20,000 loan first, you're going to get kind of demotivated.
Right.
So it's psychological is what his plan is, and I like that.
I was going to say that since, you know, we talked about this a while ago, and I've actually been doing it. I paid off a couple credit cards and my car.
Yeah.
And so, so since, you know, and you're right, it wasn't about me paying off the biggest debt. It was about me feeling confident that I could accomplish it and making, and I felt good, like, bam, that credit card is gone. Even though that was a smaller credit card, but then I took that money. So what you do is I paid off the small credit card, and let's say my minimum payment was $30. Paid it off, whatever, and then I went to my next one. That minimum balance might have been $100, but I'm taking that $30 and adding it to that $100.
Debt snowball.
Yeah, and so then I pay that one off. So now I'm adding that $130 to my car note, which was like the biggest reward because I paid that off quicker. Yep. So you're right. It's really psychological, just getting your mind ready to.
Well, and once you're done with that credit card, right, like, you know, that's a zero balance. Mm-hmm. So the next time you go to reach for that, you're like, I worked so hard to get that. You know, I mean, it's powerful. You know, I mean.
And I like how Dave Ramsey, like I said, I watch him a lot for comedy, and I love his rants. And he always says, what can you do? I can't even get it out. What does he say? What can you do with no payments? Or what do you have with no payments? Money. Right. And that's what I think about before I go back to pick up a credit card or have a payment or something. I'm like, no, I have the money to do what I want to do now.
Well, and that's right. Like, a lot of people sit down and they try to make a budget, and budget's a scary word. I don't like the word budget. It's like diet. I don't like that word. Yeah. Like, it's just called a food plan. Let's call it a.
Right.
But his. You know, one of his products, and so his team is very innovative in terms of the way they're bundling things now, and it's not really the same as it used to be. But one of the things you get if you buy Financial Peace University, which is you know, kind of the package deal, is you get this every dollar budgeting tool, and I like it because it's called Every Dollar, and basically in my mind it makes sense because before the month starts, I'm defining what that dollar is going to be used for. That's why they call it Every Dollar. Right. So it's not a budget. It's a plan for my dollars. It's a plan for my money. And I was kind of thinking about this when I was thinking about this podcast. I was thinking, you know, what is it that, you know, what do you say, you know, how do you motivate people to do a budget if they've never done one, if they're scared of the word or whatever? And somebody told me a long time ago, and this was not with regards to money, but it applies. If you fail to plan, then you plan to fail.
Right.
So, you know, you plan in every other aspect of your life. So you might as well take control of your money and just decide, okay, this is what you're doing this month. Like, you're my money and I'm going to control you and you're not going to control me. So let's just call it a plan for your money, not a budget. So.
Right. So what did you like most about Dave Ramsey?
Well, I mean, he is funny. But even though you said you hated the word diet, but I liked how he associated the word debt with dieting and weight loss. Like, because, you know, I'm all in the weight loss right now at the moment, even though I don't need to lose it. But
oh, you are in the weight loss right now. Okay.
Right. Well, yeah, I'm trying to get everybody else to get on that bandwagon, but that's a whole nother video. Right. But he said, you know, like, if it takes you 6 months to lose 1 pound, you know, then you're not very motivated. So, you know, it's kind of like, you know, that's why you should start small, because then, you know, if kind of like how you guys said, if you start seeing up front the reward, then you're more likely to keep going with it. So it's kind of like weight loss, you know, if you get started, then you're more likely to do it. So,
right.
How long was the university or the course itself? Like, how long was it?
Right. So there's two things that I'll say. One is that the course we took was about 9 weeks, I think, and we went on Sundays. We chose the date based on our availability. You can do physical groups. Obviously now things are weird because of COVID and stuff, but they're really promoting the virtual groups a lot more. But we like the in-person groups. You sit around a table. We went to a church. A lot of them aren't churches. But a lot of people host them. They don't have to be at a church. They're anywhere. It's not really sponsored by churches. But we went to a local church that we don't even attend, actually. It was just close to our house. And there was it started with 50 people maybe. And so we sat in small tables, and, you kind of get to know the people at that table, and you go through the lessons. And really all that you're doing there is you're watching the 9 lessons in a group, and then you're going through the questions and you're kind of talking about it. The powerful part for me was that Jill and I were setting aside time to go as a couple. Number one, without our kid. And 2, we were sitting in front of people and kind of sharing our story and kind of like putting words to what we were experiencing that was outside of the 4 walls of our house, which really kind of, if you try to explain something to somebody else, it changes the way you look at it personally, So it was 9 weeks. There's really if you miss a week, it's not like anybody, it's only to benefit you. It's not required. You can go back and watch all the lessons online, which is really nice. So the 9-week course is really just kind of introducing you to all the topics. And then obviously it takes you more than 9 weeks to pay off your debt. 2 to 3 years is kind of what he averages, I think, with everybody paying off their debt. Obviously, some people do it a lot quicker. Some people have a huge burden. One of the things, Alicia, you mentioned earlier is that you listen to the podcast. And I really, I don't know that I would have done this well without the podcast, because I listened to that for motivation. And I heard people's stories that they had more debt, making less money, and they did it in less time, or, what I would consider in a crazy amount of time. And I heard people, just saying, that it can be done, and just hearing these stories and listening to the process and listening to Dave explain things really does give you motivation. And it's just like anything else. It's like, Nikki, you're talking about dieting. Whatever you focus on, you're going to win at. Right. So we've just chosen to focus our time in this season of life on this. And, I don't know. So far, we have not suffered. It's only been good for us. So I think the hardest part is starting. And so, the 9-week course in person, I really suggest to people anytime I can, because you can buy it and you can get the books and they'll sit there and you'll have good intentions. But if you have those people that are waiting on you, there's something about that. So
accountability.
Yeah, and also highlights the importance of self-discipline. Like, really, I can do this. Like, do you want? I was listening to a couple things. I was listening to one show he did, and he was like, think about your 75-year-old self. Do you want freedom and vacations and whatever, or do you want 2 cars that you spent $60,000 on? Like, what do you want in the future? And that really made me think, like, is this really worth something in my future to charge or to have payments on? And another thing I really liked about Dave Ramsey is I could really relate to him because he goes on rants and I go on rants.
Yes.
And he could go on rant and talk about Jesus and at the same time.
Yep. Pulls him right in.
And I like how he says, if you follow the Bible and what your grandma says with common sense, you're good. And,
his motto used to be common sense for your dollars and cents.
Yeah.
And now his motto is where debt is dumb, cash is king. Yeah, and the paid off home mortgage is taking the place of the BMW.
Yeah,
as a status symbol of choice. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it really gets ingrained in you. I mean, and honestly, it's almost cultish. In a way. I mean, it's you definitely, like, there's Facebook groups. I mean, you can get just as involved as you want to be, and you can go crazy with trying to follow everything and do it all. I mean, to me, it's just a proven plan, and he's got great material that he put together. I've got the book sitting here just because I didn't know, what we'd be talking about. But, like I said, the plan itself is easy to follow. Anybody can do it. It doesn't matter what your income is. It doesn't matter what your budget is. It doesn't matter if you're a single mom, married with 2 incomes. It doesn't matter where you are in life. You just have to start. And that's the thing I like about it. So
I agree. I think anybody can start. And we read a lot of different books and look at a lot of different people's perspective on money, because just how Dave Ramsey doesn't feel like you should start investing until you pay off all debt. Some people feel like you should invest and use that money to pay off debt. So I think that, it's a very good program. We're into investing, but that was really before we even started learning about Dave Ramsey. I always said that me and Nikki started learning about money, and then when we would be at work, I felt like I was cheating because I was cheating on her, because we would be talking about money, and I'm like, well, today me and Rob were talking about Dave Ramsey, and he said that maybe. So
well, and I mean, and like you said, I mean, it is a perspective, right? Like, I mean, I've got people in my life right now, actually, and this is kind of it's a little bit of a rabbit hole, but I've got some people that are encouraging me to take a look at some investment opportunities to look into some vehicles that you can put your money into that are kind of tax sheltered, and they're actually investments that he hates, right? Like, he hates whole life investments. And so I'm still able to absorb things and hear things and process them the way I want to. Like, I'm not I didn't drink the Kool-Aid so hard that I can't hear anything else. But it hasn't really changed my plan. Because I don't want to veer from what I have already decided will work if I do it. And, Jill and I decided that, 2 years is going to take us roughly 2 years, a couple months. This is pre-COVID, but COVID really, for us, we've been blessed. It hasn't, and you probably are like this too, hasn't really affected our income as much because of what we do. But it has affected some things, just our tendency to hold on to cash a little bit more, But anyway, the point being is that we decided for 2 years we were going to do this and then focus on the next steps, right? Investing. So just to give it a fair shot, the baby steps are save $1,000, baby step 1. Baby step 2, pay off all your debt, smallest to largest, except for your house. If you have any large debt that is, I can't remember what the rules are. There's some caveats to the everything but the mortgage. So you pay off all your consumer debt, essentially. Baby step 3 is saving up a fully funded emergency fund, which is basically 3 to 6 months of expenses. Expenses does not include your bills that you used to owe. So expenses does not include the credit card you paid off, the car you used to pay on. Your expenses are now your 4 walls, your food, your water, and your transportation, gas, etc. 4, 5, and 6 are done together. 4 is So yeah, I'm so focused on baby step 2 right now.
4 is invest 15% of your income.
Okay, invest 15% of your income. 5 is saving for the kids' college if you have kids. 6 is paying off your mortgage. And then 7 is building wealth and giving, live and give like nobody else. So that's the part that everybody's excited about, right? Like, I mean, what would you do with a couple extra $1,000 if you I don't know.
So that creates good energy. You get back.
Yep. So, but yeah, it's nice that you guys are able to talk about other things and not. I mean, like I said, it's one option for people, and
and you take what works for you. I think what I got the most from Dave Ramsey is to get out of debt. Like, especially when you think about things you learned or didn't learn when you were younger before you became an adult. Like, I didn't really learn about managing debt and what debt meant and credit and things like that. And now it's like that's not a part of everybody's life. Like, I remember I was in my 20s. I was working at this place, and the owner, he would come, check on us or whatever. and I heard him on the phone purchasing a truck. He called the dealership and he was like, yeah, I want it was like I don't know, let's just say F-150. It was like a pickup truck. And he was like, cash price, what is it, blah, blah, blah. And he paid for the truck. And then he went and picked it up. And I was like, so everybody in finance cars, like, you know, it was like so that's when before I said this before in a previous show that I've been studying the rich a long time. Yeah. But the difference between them and me was if I believed I could do it.
Right.
And so it took me, years to become an adult and live life to say, I'm pretty smart. And everybody who got money, not smart. So, and when I would see things and be around, and he mentioned this in one of his five things of being wealthy is being around people who are also trying to be financially free. And I remember, now I don't like that man, that owner, he wasn't a nice guy. But I thought everybody financed cars. Right. I thought that you just had to finance a car. And I was like, okay, some people just pick up the phone and say, hey, this is what I want. How much for cash price? I want these specs, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let me pay for it. And I'm on my way.
Yep.
And I had never seen that before. And I was like, that opened me up to know that there is more out here as people living differently, thinking differently about money. And then especially with being a nurse, this probably can go on to another subject. I hate that we have to work 2 and 3 jobs just to get some type of peace or freedom about money. I won't get on how much, that you're paying.
Well, but to your point, it is, there's power in being around people that are like-minded, and that's not just financial, right? That's going back to Nikki's, trying to eat healthy and et cetera. You can't be around people that don't care about their bodies and care about yours and be motivated, right? If you're around people that are eating crap, you're going to eat crap, Yeah. You don't recover from being an alcoholic in a bar,
Right.
So, and you shouldn't take financial advice from people that are broke,
True.
That,
true.
And that's something that Dave says, and it makes a lot of sense, you should listen to people that have done it well. And people don't have to inherit money to be rich. We all make different amounts of income, but it is about what you surround yourself with. And if you surround yourself with people that tell you can't do it, you have to have a car payment, and you have to have a credit card to live because your cash flow isn't enough to make it by. And this is how people get by, and you pay off. Anyway, if you're around that kind of stuff, that's what you're going to believe.
Right.
So, I definitely, and that kind of goes back to the class, doing the 9 weeks and listening to the podcast and all that stuff, it puts you around people that encourage you to do different, because I'm the same way. I didn't grow up really talking about money. I didn't grow up. I grew up thinking a car payment was normal. I grew up thinking that some kind of credit card debt was healthy.
Yeah.
And, you can get by without a credit score. You don't need a credit score to get by. We can go into different topics about why you need credit, but credit is a way to get debt. That's all credit is.
Right.
And so if you don't need debt, you don't need a credit score. So, and people say, I want to build my credit, so I'm going to use my credit card. That's fine. But mentally, where is it getting you? I don't know.
So what do you think is like the biggest takeaway or biggest tip that you got from Dave Ramsey? Since you
be consistent, follow the steps. Don't pick and choose what you want to do. If you want to do this plan, I think you should be all in.
Right.
Not to step on toes, but I think if you do part of his plan and then talk bad about it, you've kind of done a disservice to yourself, because you really don't know that it doesn't work. So my biggest thing is, if you're going to do it, you need to read it, listen, do the 9 classes, or listen to them. You don't have to go if you don't really want to. But my biggest takeaway is listen to everything, start to finish. And then actually commit to doing the steps. Don't do Dave-ish is what he calls it. Because if you do Dave-ish, you will get frustrated. You will put his books on the shelf and you won't do it, and you won't finish, right? Like you won't finish. And, I mean, it's not for everybody. It may not be for everybody, but I've decided by looking at people that have done it that I know personally, and also, just kind of surrounding myself in his culture, on the podcast and stuff like that, I think it works, and I've seen it work in my own life. So I'm not done with baby step 2 yet, but I'm not stopping. We're not stopping. So yeah.
What about you?
Well, I still got to get started. So just listening to him, I just started really listening to him. So he is funny, and I like how he is down to earth. So it makes me want to, say I need to get a budget plan, start writing stuff down, getting stuff in order, and just start, like you said. So he is very motivating. So that aspect I do like. So I'll stay engaged and actually want to do it.
Yeah.
It will be hard for you to give up.
Dave-ish.
Yeah, it's hard to give up, especially if you're interested in investing. It's hard to give that up. I mean, if you're the type of person that's always looking for the next opportunity to invest, and that's a big part of your life. So let me shift gears and not talk about investment. Let's talk about the $1,000 emergency fund. $1,000 means that literally, if you've got $5,000 in the bank and that's kind of your savings, he's saying take $4,000 of that and put it towards debt. Leave $1,000 only. That's super uncomfortable for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be. It is supposed to be uncomfortable. Right. That's the whole point. And the fact that you're not able to invest is supposed to be uncomfortable. Supposed, not supposed. It's supposed to be uncomfortable. And
supposed to be.
It's supposed to be. I mean, it's supposed to be. It is part of the plan is the uncomfort and the discomfort that it makes. Right. And that's what motivates you to get done. And that's why he doesn't encourage people to be in the debt payoff for 5 years. He doesn't encourage that. I mean, there's different types of, so there's stories that you'll hear, and it'll be like, we've got $350,000 worth of debt, and we make our total income's $85,000 a year. What? Where did you get the debt? So I mean, their timeline is really going to be long, right? So those are the kind of stories where it's hard to, because there are statistics, right? Like we've all seen the graphs where, Juan invests at age 19 to age 27, $2,000 a year, and then stops investing. And then John invests at age 29, and they never catch up to each other, right? Yeah. The one that invested early because of the time value of money never catches up, or, the other guy never catches up to the guy that invested early. So part of it is the discomfort. One of the things that Jill and I did, this is my visual for today. So we have these 2 jars, and they're little craft, cotton things.
Yeah.
And each one represents a certain amount of money. So when we pay it off, we move it from this jar, which is the bad jar, frowny face, to the happy jar. So this sits out in our house, and it's something we look at. So, that's uncomfortable. And when people ask what that is, we tell them about it. And so it makes you accountable. It's that kind of thing. So I mean, you really do have to, I mean, if you want to do it, I think you really just have to make yourself uncomfortable, So
yeah, I can see that.
Get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Because I think, and I know we're running out of time, but I remember when I first started trying to pay off, debt, when we first started talking about it, I would feel ashamed if I spent money, like if I went shopping for something I didn't need, or if I swiped my card, I'm like, I'm so immature, because that's what Dave Ramsey was saying, you are so immature, you can't go without that dress, you can't go without that. And it really does make you accountable. And like I said, I haven't fully done it. I'm still learning a lot about it, but it has made me aware that debt is dumb. So I know that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to clear up my debt.
Right.
And I think about the money I spend now. It's like, do I need this? Is this another person we read about is Robert Kiyosaki. Yeah. Now I'm like, is this an asset or is this a liability?
Right.
And I know that I will get my own formula to, and apply things to be more financially free and financially literate and financially at peace. And that's the main
and I think, and this is the last thing I'll say because I know we are running out of time. If it's just about me, then why not? Let's just have debt. Let's just, who cares, right? Like, as long as I'm making the payments and they're not coming to arrest me, who gives a flip,
Right.
But really, it's about my daughter and y'all's kids, and you want different for your kids than you have, And I don't want Lucy to be looking at 6 figures of debt, figuring out how to get out of it. I want her to know that you can live a different way. And, money problems are one of the top reasons for divorce and suicides and stuff like that. Like, it does create tension, and there's another way. So why not choose that other way? So, but I appreciate y'all having me.
Man, I appreciate you being on here, and we can go on and on and on talking about this subject. I mean, we can have a part 2 and part 3 because this is definitely something.
Levels to this.
Yes. But I thank you so much for, being our guest. It was fun.
Yeah.
We appreciate
I'm excited about my V-neck T-shirt.
Yes, we're gonna send you a V-neck. Fitted for that nice muscles.
yeah, right. I need to get on Nikki's bandwagon with the dieting.
Lord, she's relentless. So, she sends you random text messages in the middle of the day about working out. Oh my gosh. But we thank you so much, Rob.
Thank you guys for inviting me. All right, we'll talk to y'all.
All right. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.